So lately I've been thinking about the prayers that God never answered. And what got this started was a thought I had last week where I was like, hey, remember this one thing that you used to pray about? Don't you wish it was fulfilled? And I was like, no. Aren't you glad it never happened? And I was like, yeah, because now there's space for new things. And that's what really got me started. There are some things in your life that you've been praying about that God hasn't answered, that God never answered. So a few years ago, I used to like a certain girl. Now we were both Christians and we both had podcasts for teens to help encourage them and empower them for God's sake. And we lived thousands of miles apart. Now I believe that this girl was the one, and I was convinced that I heard from God. She was the one that I'd seen visions saying that that's the girl you're going to marry. And I was so bought up in that and believing that. And I prayed every day for our romance to come to fruition. Now she didn't know that we were just friends, but here I was praying every single day that God, I believe that you're going to convince her and she's going to start to like me, or if not, she's going to tell me that she likes me, and then we're going to get married and then this is going to happen and whatnot. But it never ended up happening. And that's what really got me thinking about the prayers that God never answered. Because I thought back a few weeks ago thinking that, remember how I used to pray about this? Thinking to myself, and I thought, do I still want it? And I thought, no, I don't want it anymore, and I don't pray for it anymore because it would get in the way of new things. And now that's what got me thinking. Are there things in your life that you prayed for in the past that God never brought about, and now that you're in the future, you're like, I'm glad that never happened. I'm glad God never answered that prayer. Because in reality, He was right. He was right not to answer the prayer. Because as it ended up playing out, you can't control someone's will, you can't control someone's emotion, and you can't force someone into a relationship that just doesn't happen. And it so may be regarding other things, and it may not just be a relationship, it may be other things. But there are certain things which we prayed for in the past that God doesn't let happen. And it's only looking back in hindsight that we get to realize the preciousness of God not answering our prayers. You get here on social media a lot and you hear people tell you, here's 3 steps to get God to answer all your prayers. But what about the fact that God doesn't have to answer our prayers at all? And the fact that He answers or doesn't answer is a matter of love. Whatever He does it out of love. He does it because He loves you and cares about you very much. Now, He never answered that prayer because He cares about me very much, and He cares about that girl very much. He never answered, He answered certain prayers because He cares about me very much. God is a Father, He's a shepherd, and He's a comforter. Now, He cares way more about you than He does about answering your prayers. He cares more about us than He does about satisfying our wants in the moment. Because our wants are not always in line with what's right for us. Now, Psalm 84 says, the Lord is a sun and shield. The Lord will give grace and honor. No good thing will He withhold from those whose walk is blameless. So God doesn't withhold anything good from us because He loves us. And He withholds whatever isn't good for us because He loves us. Now there may be some things in your life that you're praying about at this very moment that God might not answer. Now, there are some prayers where we'll always have questions like, why God? Why didn't you answer? Why aren't you answering? But there are other prayers that, in hindsight, as we look back here on this side of heaven, we'll realize that God was right. He was right. He was right not to answer. He was right not to let it happen. He was right. And that just makes me wonder, are there things in your life that you're still holding on to and wondering, God, why didn't you let that happen? Well, let me tell you why He didn't let that happen. Because He's got better in store. It says in Romans that God works all things out for our good. So God is busy working all things out for your Whether God's answer to a prayer seems to be on time or not on time, or God answers the way you want him to, or he doesn't. Just trust and know that he's working things for your best interest. The Lord is a sun and shield. The Lord will give grace and honor. No good thing will he withhold from those whose walk is blameless.